Tarnished, for it is time to delve back into Elden Ring with the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, which came to PS4 and PS5 on the 21st of June. It feels like everyone in the world has been playing it, and none of us can stop talking about it. So to celebrate the Shadow of the Erdtree's release, we're going to talk about not only the joys of the DLC, even the parts when we get our butts kicked, but the joys of Elden Ring as a whole, in this episode of the PlayStation Access podcast.
Hello and welcome to the PlayStation Access podcast, the official podcast of PlayStation UK. I am your host, Rob Pearson. Joining us this week, we have Rosie Caddick.
Hello.
And Amy Mallet.
Hello.
And this week, we're all very excited because Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree, is here.
Rise, Tarnished!
Oh, my word. Much like Elden Ring did when it first came out over 2 years ago now, I can't believe it. Shadow of the Erdtree seems to have just taken the gaming world by storm. Like, I'm looking at the reviews online, the best expansion ever, and it feels like the release of Elden Ring all over again. Like, everyone's talking about it, everyone's playing it. I am not.
Why not, Rob? How far did you get in Elden Ring?
Well, we'll get to
let's
that.
recap.
We'll
Okay,
get
right.
to that. I'm sitting on the sofa here with two people who have the platinum trophy in Elden Ring.
High five, Amy. Let's try and get it so the mics pick up.
Oh no. Oh, it's the pressure. Aim for the elbow, Amy. Aim for the elbow. I don't know what.
How on earth did you get the platinum in Elden Ring with coordination
with
like that?
dexterity like that.
Honestly.
I know,
Both
it's
like
crazy.
hesitating, like the timing, and that's
I
when
don't
it went so bad.
So here's the thing. And this is even more impressive, really, that I have the platinum. I'm slightly blind in my left eye. And as a result, my coordination is absolutely terrible. So sometimes when I high five, I'm never 100% sure if I'm going to smack the other person in the face.
I would embrace it if you did smack
If
me
I
in the face.
backhanded Rosie in the middle of a podcast
Yep.
by accident. But yeah, we both have the plat, which is, I think Rosie probably did it slightly quicker than me. I would put money on you doing it slightly quicker than me because you
I
are
can't
pro
remember.
gamer.
We should have a look at the date comparisons and see like who got it first.
They
But
will do that. But Rosie, I want to come to you first because of everyone on the team, you've been playing Shadow of the Erdtree
I've
the
been
most.
So jealous.
I've been the dedicated Tarnished.
So just in general, what have been your highlights so far from the expansion?
I mean, already just the world is just as beautiful as the base game is. I've expressed many times how I think Elden Ring is a stunning game for its use of color and its like design of the settings and the environments and stuff. It's like you're traversing a painting. It's beautiful. So I think immediately with Shadow of the Erdtree, I was just like, oh, this is just a stunning view. It's still got the different variety for all sorts of little locations. Like just from the top of my head, I can express that I can share that I've done like a lava area. You've just got your greenery, foresty bits. There was like loads of waterfalls, which you always have to walk into to see if there's a secret. I haven't found a secret behind a waterfall yet, but I'm hoping to because that's like a gaming trope.
There must
isn't
be.
it?
There must be
somewhere.
There'll be a chest
waterfall
or
with a
something,
secret
yeah.
I
behind
do
it.
love the one in the base Elden Ring when you go in towards a waterfall and then a bear comes out of it. That's a great one.
That's the Miyazaki version of the waterfall trick.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
But I've gone into like one of the little dungeons and caves, and one of the dungeons is filled with like all the pot enemies. You remember Alexander?
Oh,
who everyone
Alexander,
loves?
pot boy,
Yeah,
pot
the jar, your jar best friend. Well,
One
there's
man.
like a whole dungeon with loads of the pot enemies around and about, and I think Rob, you walked in on me as I was in like a labyrinth that was just I call
did.
it a labyrinth. It was just more like a big maze that was filled with pots, and I was just like, this is, it's meant to be eerie and
It
spooky.
was my first look at Shadow of the Erdtree.
Yeah.
Just a big room full of pots.
Just
Yeah.
loads of pots, but I loved it. I was like, look at all these pots. I don't know where I'm going. And there's enemies like trying to get me from around the corners. I'm just here thinking, I'm in like a shop right now, just looking at all these antique pots. I'm loving it. But I think the main sort of thing I'd probably take away from Shadow of the Erdtree is that it's huge. It's genuinely really big. Already when we've seen from like when the trailers came out, we saw these massive enemies and things like that you'll be fighting, like the big fire cage one that stomps around, and you see them from a distance, and as you're approaching them, it's literally like you are no bigger than like the height from the bottom of its foot to its ankle or something like that. You are tiny, and when you hit it, it does like just a minuscule amount of damage. So not only are like the enemies big and things that you'd think think are like should be bosses or a boss material. It's like no, we're not bosses. We're just
Big Burning Fireboy, and that's the way I will refer to him. I think that's the Latin for his name. Big Burning Fireboy isn't a main boss, is he?
No, he's just an enemy.
He's just an enemy.
Yeah,
There's several of him.
This massive Titanic fire monster is not a boss.
No.
Not a boss. It's just roaming around the world, and I'm.
Well, how do you know he's not a boss?
Because when you
No
approach
health
him,
bar.
no health bar at the bottom, and you don't get like the epic sort of like sort of music coming in. None of that. It's just the open world, just the soothing tunes with a little bit of intensity, like the music in the open world.
Does he come back when you kill him then?
No, so he doesn't
right, so
come
he's kind
back.
of like a mini boss as
but
such.
there are multiple ones. So
Right,
where I
okay.
am when recording this podcast, I've currently just come across a second one, and that one is like standing guard in front of like a camp with soldiers in it. And I went to approach it thinking, yeah, I'll get them, but because he sets fire to everything, just so many things were burning around me, and I was like, oh my god, he absolutely wiped me out. So that's when I go on the map and I go, there's a tough enemy here, with like my markers, putting the one with the skeleton or putting the one with the skull on it, and I'm like, I'll come back here another time.
It sounds like a boss to me.
But he's not, because
In any
then,
other game, he'd be the final boss. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's how much Elden Ring kind of raises the stakes.
Yeah.
it's because you do also have like your bosses that you can find, your hidden bosses, your ones at the end of a cave, and your big story bosses, which so far I've done like 2 big story bosses, and they've both been beautiful. The dancing lion, which this
Isn't really a spoiler because this one's kind of been out there.
Yeah, this
per
one's
se.
kind of been out
Yeah.
there. So the dancing lion, he's just stunning. I loved how he moved around, and it was just his movement. It felt like I was in the theatre and I was just watching a beautiful production where
It does sort of look like somewhere between a Chinese dragon and a lion, and the way it sort of like wiggles along, and it is like its face is terrifying.
Yeah,
it's
fully.
got so many rows of teeth. I don't know how they designed that thing, but they thought just add more teeth.
add
more is more.
teeth.
All
We
the
love
better
teeth.
to kill you with.
Yeah.
Tarnished. Yeah.
And when I was just talking about like the scale of it as well, I'm fully just in the Elden Ring world again of, I don't know about you guys, but when I play Elden Ring, I have to look around all the edges in case
Yeah.
there's a secret or anything like that. So I'm fully spending hours just exploring and seeing what's around and about. And the thing is, it's not even as if I feel I can skip those, because there are things that you can just find on the edge of the map. So it's just fully me going back into the world, exploring. And in terms of the scale of it, already when you have the first map, it took me a while. Like, I had to adjust back into the Elden Ring mojo. I thought, oh, okay, here's the first map. I've got this
Yeah.
area. I can explore this. And then like over 10 hours later, I only then just get the second map from
Yeah.
exploring and stuff like that. But when you go to the edge of some areas, I love how if you, just like in the base game for Elden Ring, but when you look over some edges, you can see like future areas that you're going to be exploring.
That's one of the main things I love so much about, I think most of the Soulsborne universe, truthfully, but Elden Ring in particular, it's so beautifully interconnected. Like, it feels as though one world truly leads to another. And because there's no loading screens, you can kind of just go from one side to the other. You see a church on a hilltop, you're like, cool, I'm just going to gallop up over there. And everything just loads in seamlessly. And it really feels like a proper, just cohesive world, I think. Yeah.
Definitely. And I mean, I got really excited because in the first area, I remember looking over and I saw like a giant sleeping dragon, and I thought, I don't know what's over there, but I want to see what's
a giant
with that.
sleeping dragon,
Yeah, I want to
Rosie,
see
so-
what this giant sleeping. Well, I'll tell you this now. It's not sleeping. It's dead.
So
so
there was
it's
one like that in the first game too.
yeah,
wasn't
so you
there?
know, it's just like a giant, ancient, big old corpse of a dragon. So I was very excited to explore that area, and also they had like this area which just had lovely red flowers, and then also there's an area with lovely blue flowers, like all over the place. So it's not just that's a pretty flower; it's like coated in these flowers. So I've briefly run through the area with the red flowers, and I've taken some pictures because I felt cute running around with all these lovely flowers. They glow as well in the dark, so I'm like, ooh, I love them. So yeah, it's just filled with just all the exploring goodness. And also when you have the first map, you look at the edges and you think, oh, okay, so if I get the next piece of the map, it will unlock maybe that section. But when I found it, then suddenly the map just expanded 5 times bigger than I thought it was going to. I thought it was just going to be like a little corner that was left, but instead it fully just went woof. It's in like a huge scale went up. So yeah, it's a big game.
So part of the appeal, I guess, of the main Elden Ring base game was that exploration with no explicit goal in mind. You could just load it up and you could wander off in a direction and the game would just keep going.
Yeah.
Not just out, but also underneath. There's
Yes,
a whole
God, yeah. The crypts and stuff.
underworld area, and the world just keeps on peeling back and peeling back. Have we got more of the same in Shadow of the Erdtree?
So whereas in like the base Elden Ring, you know, when you rest at some site of graces, you remember there's like a yellow ray of light that will point you in a
critical
rough
path.
Yes,
Yeah.
the critical path, like the rough way you've got to go. In Shadow of the Erdtree, so far I've only come across one of those, and that was after I defeated the first boss.
Right.
And even then, I was curious, so I followed it a bit, and it just led me to a locked door. So I think like Shadow of the Erdtree, at least I can't say this for certain because I'm still playing it at the moment, but I think that in terms of the exploration and the guidance of it, it's basically saying this is where your objective is at the very end of the DLC. Go there. Like that's the only, everything else you've just got to figure out how to get rid of these black thorny twigs and stuff that's blocking the door. Everything else you've just got to explore and figure out yourself. So I don't know whether there's going to be another site of grace which has another sort of light beaming from it, but so far that's been the only one. And I'm just like, yeah, you know what, fair enough. I know where I need to go whenever I do unlock this big thorn covered door, like, you know, in Sleeping Beauty and stuff like that. So
And do you think the terms DLC and expansion, you know, I have a certain thing pops into my mind when I hear DLC expansion. Do you think those terms do justice to the size and the scale of what Shadow of the Erdtree is?
I mean, I'd say so because I mean, I personally, I don't think the size determines the worth of a DLC. So, like, you can have DLCs which are like smaller episodes of things or smaller segments or expansions, and they are just as good as the main game. And you're like, yeah, brilliant. It's like more of it. So, like with Elden Ring, it's already such a big game. I think that we all kind of suspected that this expansion was going to be like, you know, a really big sized expansion to it, as opposed to, let's say, a couple of other DLCs. But I even remember with Bloodborne, the Old Hunters, that was a really big DLC and expansion, but because that one felt more linear, I guess maybe the scale of it doesn't, in terms of like the size, doesn't feel as big, but it's probably, I mean, I can't judge because I haven't finished Shadow of the Erdtree yet, but it potentially has like the same sort of scale in terms of what they put into it, because it's not just the world, it's the fights, it's the story, it's the exploration, it's everything that they add into it that makes it like, wow, like what blows your mind with it. So I don't think the size of it determines like the DLC's worth necessarily or anything like that in terms of like, is it good, is it bad, or things like that. But with this one, I'm definitely like, oh wow, this is going to take up a lot of my time already. I can already see like those hour counts just going higher and higher and higher. But I've been the same with a lot of DLC. So at the moment, I'm just excited to like, now I just want to go back into the Shadow of the Erdtree and just carry on playing it. Can I just do that for work, please?
Yeah. leave the sofa now.
Yeah, can I just go? I'll sit over there and I'll just play some more of it. That'll be fine.
No, Rose.
Please.
No, you can't. Only if you promise to guide my noob tarnished through.
Yeah, how far did you get?
Oh, not very far.
Did you?
You beat Margit, didn't you?
No.
Did you not? I thought you did.
The game just kept on spitting me out. Constantly.
You didn't Margit good. I thought that was your whole
I
thing, that
didn't
you got past him.
No, I didn't Margit good. No.
Well, to be fair, Margit is a big skill check.
I didn't even Tree Sentinel get good. I sort of, you know, the little wolf boss in the end of a cave? I did that.
Yeah, you did one of them. That's good. Claps. Well done.
Pull his face.
Those soldiers outside that first courtyard gate, I must have killed them maybe 30 times.
Yeah.
But I lack the mental fortitude to play games like Elden Ring.
Yeah.
And so I'm just sort of, I always feel like I'm sat outside looking through a window watching everyone else having a great time with these games. And whenever I play it, I will go until I fight something that kills me. And then I'm never quite sure is this something I should be leaving for another 5 or 10 hours until I'm a little bit stronger? Or should I have another go at fighting this now and you can die 10 times to that boss. But then dying 10 times to a boss is something that happens a lot of the time in all From Software games.
Yeah.
So I was never really sure whether I was just
Your skill
needlessly
needs
butting
higher,
against
yeah.
or whether I just needed to be better at the game.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that
yeah.
would just happen all the time. So okay, well, I'll go off in this direction then, bear. I'll go off in this direction then, massive thing on a horse.
Do I need
I'll
to
go
evolve
off in
my
this
skill,
direction,
or is it the
dragon.
game?
There was always something. I just couldn't move longer than 20 minutes in Elden Ring without something kicking my ass and making me cry. And
Well,
thinking,
did you-
Oh, I don't know if I should be here yet.
Did you like the fighting the dragon? Because in Shadow of the Erdtree, they love their dragon
Oh,
fights.
do they? Oh,
Yeah,
good.
there's like a full on in the first area. There's a moment where you're like. You approach a lake and then you see a sleeping dragon in the middle, and this one's definitely sleeping. And you see a sleeping dragon, and I was there just like, oh, it's gonna be another exciting fight again. Here we go. And then later, like just slightly later on, they have like past the dragon's pit. I mean, you're exploring an area called the Dragon's Pit, but then fully it's like dragon fight, dragon fight, dragon fight. It's like
Here be dragons. Yeah.
It's like a trial of dragon fights. And at the moment, I'm like up against a dragon, which I thought, oh, I've been slaying these dragons. I've been having a great time with them. I even had a moment when two dragons were fighting against each other,
Oh,
and
that sounds cool.
I just sat there and watched. I wasn't expecting it. I don't know why there was a second dragon there all of a sudden, because I just rested at the sight of grace, went to approach it, and then two dragons were at each other, and I was just like, okay, this is great. So I was fully sat there just watching them, moving the camera. But yeah, no, so I've been like just going through dragons, and then this one dragon reminds me like, no, this is a trial of dragons. This one is going to be tough. And like when I hit it, I did like a fingernail's worth of damage. I was like, oh yes, this is a trial of dragons, all right.
I think that dragon that you said is dead, that you could see in the distance. I don't think that dragon's
It's going to
dead.
come to
I
life.
don't
think
know, it
that
definitely-
dragon is lying there going, psych,
It looked very, it looked
It's just like,
waiting for a tarnished to just come on up to it to poke it with a
Yeah.
stick before
well, I
it
mean,
gets
I ran
up.
all over it, like fully. I was like going
Okay.
across its wings. I even went to the back of its head. Like I was just jumping, because in Elden Ring you can jump as opposed to other From Software games. I was just jumping all around its back to like get into the back of its head. You know, where it has those like. What are those parts called of a dragon where it's like horns?
I don't think they've
but
ever
it's,
really been scientifically named.
No,
Yeah.
like, you know, just that back part, which
the
is...
juts. Let's call them the juts.
Yeah,
they
you do.
jut a bit.
the bit where the horns come out of the head.
Yeah, but it's like they've got like a shield sometimes looking thing. Like a... what's the dinosaur called?
Triceratops.
Yeah, like a triceratops.
It's like a fan, isn't it?
Yeah,
a
like that kind
a-
of fan
yeah.
thing. But the bit between that and its head at the back, like I explored there as well. At the end of the day, I explored that
explored
area.
I explored there, checking about to see if he's clean behind his ears.
I
This
reckon.
dragon.
Yeah, like this
I reckon
dragon was that big.
That dragon's definitely pretending. It's doing
Yeah,
really
yeah.
well.
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
like, don't
That itches
move,
so much.
don't say anything.
I'm going to
Wait.
sneeze.
Wait for the opportune moment when she thinks I'm definitely dead. And then
Yeah.
I'll just be like, "Ah."
But there's as well, just with Shadow of the Erdtree, there's, I mean, I mentioned there's like a whole new story to it as well, but there's new NPCs to interact with, more mysteries and puzzles to do. I've come across like multiple things where I've been like, do I want to interact with this? Or things that I thought didn't think would do something, and then I did it, and now something else has happened, and I'm just, so it's fully got all of the elements so far from like the base game, Elden Ring, but it's just given us more of it, which is exactly, I think, what everyone wanted, just more Elden Ring.
I wanted to ask you and bring you in on this as well, Amy. Talking about Elden Ring as a whole, so Shadow of the Erdtree and the base game, and you touched upon it a little bit there, but that thing where you just find something unexpected or unpredictable and you just go with it. What for you have been your most memorable moments? And when I say moment, you know, it can be a little thing, or it can be something that you discover and just unravels and lasts for hours. What are your best memories, I guess, from your time with Elden Ring? Maybe we'll come to you first, Amy, on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely remember what I love, and I think this is kind of, we go back to the idea of exploration and expansion. When I first started playing Elden Ring, it was not long after I just joined this company, and several people here were playing it. And we all had different experiences, which I think is such an impressive feat for an open world game.
Wasn't there a whole Slack channel devoted
There was a
to it?
Slack
Yeah.
channel called Elden Ring. That's what it was called for Dave. And a handful of us were playing it. And every day in the channel, me and Alex and other people would just be like, oh God, have you seen this? And I'd be like, no, I've been playing for 5 hours and I haven't seen that. And I think that was what was so incredible about it, is that you picked something on the hilltop, the typography, I think, is that even the right word? The topography of the game, like the churches, the villages, the kind of like the terrain in general was so incredibly impressive that everywhere you went, you kind of want to just keep exploring and you could just keep going and going and going. So people found that it was like we'd all been dropped in the same area of the map and everyone had just scattered and we'd all got something new to share. That was something incredible. And that's probably one of my strongest memories of the game, is early on just being like, what have you fought? What have you killed? What have you found? That's a really cool thing, I think, for a community of gamers. And I think it sounds like Shadow of the Erdtree is going to do similar things, where I'll probably get dropped in and be messaging you going, oh, have you seen this creature? Have you found this NPC? Weirdest thing just happened to me. Oh my gosh. Alexander, is it Alexander Iron Fist? It is, isn't it?
Oh yeah, something like that, yeah.
So he's the big pop man with the arms. When you're wandering around
Alexander Iron Fist.
He's great. I love Alexander.
He is phenomenal. When you find him, he's just buried in some soil. Like sort of face down effectively, isn't he? Like he's stuck in the ground as this giant pot. And as you're wandering around Limgrave, you'll just hear this voice go, hello.
Is anyone there or something?
Yeah. Like, hello there.
I think I've heard that.
Yeah. And it's so strange because
I've not discovered what it is. I've just heard this voice.
Yeah. There's a couple of moments like that where an NPC is hidden in some way. But yeah, it's just really funny. So you'll find him and he's like, could you, give the old fellow a shunt? Could you get me out? And you have to basically get behind him and just like get him out of the ground. You have to whack him. And you're kind of scared when you whack him that you're going to break him because he's a pot that's basically full of dirt. But yeah, you end up giving him a good shunt to the butt and he comes out of the hole and then he's like, oh, hello there. And he's sort of very Monty Python-ish about him. He's really funny. And I thought, yeah, he's a great character to find. And then I just think the only other thing that I think sticks in a lot of people's memory is the chest that transports you somewhere horrible.
Oh my God, I
Very
freaked
early
out.
on in the game, you open a chest, and Elden Ring does, soft games do mess with your idea of what a chest can be. You don't see it and are immediately filled with elation for the loot that will be inside. You see it and think, dear God, like, is this going to be a mimic? This could be anything.
But you always open it.
You always, oh God, yeah. My motto in Elden Ring was in for a penny, in for a pound. Every time I had like 10,000 souls, I'd be like, open that chest. Go on.
Yeah, go on.
And it opens and then all this fog comes out and then you're just transported somewhere.
I think I remember this. It takes you to an area that you're not supposed to be.
You're not supposed to be there. Hell no. And it's like a sort of cave with all these people who are using magic, and you've never even seen magic at that point in the game. You're like level 4 or something, so you're running to get out. It's terrifying. Yeah, that's a really good moment, I think.
That's a great one. I mean, for my memories, I'll always remember entering I can't remember what the area is called, but when you go down like the lift and then you see the beautiful purple sky.
God, that's stunning, isn't it?
With the stars. I love that area.
It's Siofra River?
I was going to say, it's like, it begins with an
Sophia
S.
or something is what I want to say.
It begins with an S. Or going into Caelid for the first time and then immediately turning around because you're just running around and suddenly the sky just gets piercing red and then you've got these giant dog creatures that can just eat you alive because you're so weak at the time. Like the fear I got from those, I'll always remember. But looking back on it, I think my favourite memories are my time with the mimic tier and just fighting bosses with my mimic. So the mimic tier, for those who might not know, it's a summon because you can summon like spirits to help you in battle. And the mimic tier is a replica of you. So it's just another version of you. And at first, I just thought, oh my gosh, this is fun. But then I had so much fun with it. My mimic's now become my best friend. So some people are like, oh, like it's just, it's another version of you. It's so powerful, this, that, and the other. And I'm like, it could be the weakest thing in the world. It's just become my best friend. And it doesn't feel right to do a fight. And like, if I am going to summon someone, it doesn't feel right for it not to be my mimic because they've become my best Elden Ring friend. Which sounds really sad. But it's like my best friend is a reflection of myself. But
it's a little bit narcissistic.
But I've just got so many memories of just going, go on, mimic, and screaming for my mimic. Or even shouting at my mimic when it's like, when an enemy goes like, oh, and it staggers, then you can go in and do a really strong hit on it. Like Mimic can do that as well. And then there have been moments where Mimic's done it and I've been like, no, Mimic, I I was going to do it. So I've also had moments where I've shouted at my Mimic, moments where I've like screamed for joy with Mimic. I just have so many fond memories just with my Mimic. It's so so I love them. And also just the memories of doing boss fights, and then like not only like when you'll get that victory, that's always a great feeling. But I've I think I've done it in the past few Souls games where I just turn around and walk away like a boss as it explodes behind me.
Oh yeah,
I love doing that. Like literally all my clips when I can do it, it's like fight the boss, recover, and then I'm like no, calm. Turn around and slowly walk away like a boss. So
I'm way more petty. After I killed Melania, I went over and smashed her chair. In the capture, you just see me run over and then stood there. And now you've got nowhere to sit. How do you feel about that?
I do think with Melania, I was so like, I've done it, that I just had a moment of just like, by the time I realised, wait, Melania's actually down, I was a bit late in doing the epic turnaround on my capture. But I like have lots of capture of just me walking away like a boss. And I do remember the boss with like the 2 gargoyles as well.
Don't talk to me about them gargoyles.
Oh, because they're horrible. They are horrible to fight because there's 2 of them. But I did so I didn't win this fight, but I did have the experience where one of them jumps off the edge and then it dies because there's like so when you go into the arena, Rob, it's like you come from just a little hut, but there's this whole open area next to it, and just naturally the fight, I can't control how the fight's going. They're jumping around all over the place, and I'm just trying to attack them. They do this big attack
where they kind of leap backwards, and if you're not in the right area near the cliff, they'll basically jump backwards off of the cliff.
Which I wasn't intending at all. I mean, I died on that run anyway, I think because I was so bewildered that just happened. I was just like, wait, is it what's happened?
Yeah.
But having that moment as well, or like those surprises, I've got many memories of Elden Ring, like just having those. I think like essentially my favourite memories have just been times where I've screamed for joy, had surprises, just bonded with the characters like Alexander, my Mimic, just having a lovely time, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the Siofra River.
It's a gorgeous area.
I just couldn't believe what was happening.
It's so gorgeous.
Like it was at that stage where it's quite early on when we were all playing it and we were all discussing it, and I love that shared discovery when a game has first come out.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that the game world would do that.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just a cave. It was like a whole extra bit of the world was underneath.
Yeah.
And I looked in the map, and I was on a different map.
Yeah.
And it absolutely boggled my mind.
Yeah.
I don't know how far through that underground segment I got. I don't know how far it stretches.
It goes on forever.
I was down there for about 3 hours, just like, okay, how big can this place be?
Yeah.
And it took me so long to actually get my mind around the fact that this is just another chunk of world down here.
Yeah.
It's not a cave. It's not a dungeon. And it was honestly one of the most surprising. I don't feel like I get surprised in video games as much anymore. You feel slightly old and crusty and miserable. That's how I feel anyway. And I'm come on then, what are you going to do that I haven't seen before? And then just, oh my God,
a whole world underground.
I can't believe what I'm seeing here. And to have that feeling, I think was pretty magical. Despite the fact that I feel like Elden Ring is, the wall in Game of Thrones. Just a big wall of ice stretching from horizon to horizon. And all I've done is sort of like run along it and scratch it with a toothpick. That's what it feels like. I'm so nowhere near experiencing everything there is to experience in this game.
You know nothing, Rob.
And already, thank you. And already I've had that level of experience in terms of just the exploration of it in this underground bit, and I was inching forward. Like the enemies in there were sort of tough, but I was able to deal with them, and I was able to like keep going. I kept on going until I got scared at how far I was going. Like, oh God, like I don't want to get lost in this place, so I sort of like cowardly ran back and went back to the upper world. So in my game, that area is still sort of unexplored. Like
Yeah.
I don't think I got to any kind of boss character down there, and I'm assuming there probably is something nasty down there.
There's loads of things down there. I mean, I
Yeah.
literally was about 150 hours in, and I was still finding bits down, like
Yeah.
further on the
Flipping
sort of
heck.
level beneath me that I hadn't seen before.
Wow.
Or I potentially, like when I was going for the plat, I was looking up item locations, and there were
Yeah.
areas I hadn't found 160 hours in, which to me is insane.
Yeah.
But yeah, that bottom area, like that just keeps going and going, and the verticality of it is insane.
Yeah.
Because the lift, it's a like clever way to disguise a loading screen, but it feels seamless.
So it gives you glimpses of the world as you come down, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
first glimpse of the whole. Oh my god! You realise you're looking up at the underside of the world you've just been at. And it's almost like you're not in a different. It feels like you're in a different dimension almost down
Yeah,
there. Like
yeah.
you've come somewhere that you shouldn't be.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
It's very exciting. Oh, I mean, I'm sad. I'm sad that I'm so weak.
We made a video for Shadow of the Erdtree on the channel, and I did somewhat see someone in the comments ask, like, what was it like getting back into the DLC? Because, I mean, I as well, I haven't played Elden Ring since they added, like, the fighting arena
Same, yeah.
update to it, and even then that was, like, over a year ago. And going back into it, I think the developers knew that there were going to be players who haven't played it since release or anything like that, because when you do go back into it, like you say, that muscle memory, first of all, you're trying to remember how it all works, especially because it's got, like, you hold L1 to get a separate menu and all this jazz. But when you first go into the DLC, it does have those lighter enemies, just just people who are walking around who you can get in one slap. But I feel that they're there roaming around just so you can get a bit of your confidence back, or a bit of the feel for the timing of or what weapons and equipment you've got.
Parrying again, learning to block again, walking with your shield in front of you the whole time, which everyone says is an absolute fondue. Everyone's like, oh, it's such cheese, but walking
That's all I do.
It's defensively.
Walk inch forward very slowly with my shield.
Yeah.
Oh, please.
I go into every crypt like that,
Yeah.
turning corners with a shield.
This is my experience. Anyway, sorry, go on, Rosie.
No, not at all. But I was
Yeah,
just
go
going to
on.
say, so I do think the DLC does lead you, it leads you into. We appreciate that you may not be. You may need a little bit of a warm up, a little bit of a refresher to it, which I did really appreciate, because then when I did find the first boss, I was like, yeah, I've warmed up, and so the save I used was from just before the very final fight, so I was like, yeah, I'm strong enough to take on the final boss, I could do this. And then when I found the first boss, it immediately just slapped me silly immediately, I was dead. So I do think it is designed, personally, I think it's designed for you to play definitely with an end game character, but it does still ease you into the welcome back, let us warm you up to things again. Here's a couple of bird enemies that you've killed those people wandering.
Couple of bird enemies.
Yeah, there's
Here's a couple of lowly pigeons.
Remember
Lowly
these
pigeons.
guys? Go on, have a few.
Yeah, have a few.
of them to kill.
Well, you've you've just got around on torrent, just getting rid of these people roaming around. It's here's some bigger birds now. Or they surprised you a bit. Here they come, and you can get them. Well, at least I was able to get them in 1 or 2 hits. So yeah, it does definitely help you get that muscle memory coming back. And then once you're back into it, now I feel like I'm fully back. I remember the timing and the weight of my build, and I mean, even then I still think I don't remember what any of these Ashes of War means, or every time I get an item, I have to go in the inventory and really look more for it. Even I found I think it was called a cross map or something at the beginning of the DLC, and because I just thought, oh, it's a map, I'll find it easily, I was looking through all the menus where's it gone? I don't understand where it's gone in my menus, but no, I'm fully warmed up to it now, and so I think it does a really good job with easing you into the experience again, but also kicking your butt as well at the same time.
Do you remember when we were forced to wear a pumpkin, Rosie? And fight those hands?
I love that. I love that so much.
It's one of the best things anyone's ever said out of context, isn't it?
I love horrible hand spider monsters.
So they're called finger creepers.
Finger creepers.
They're awful. Yeah.
Fingers.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's some big ones as well.
Massive ones. There's one in Mountaintop of the Giants, and it comes down from the sky. So you are walking towards back to Rosie's little birds that you can easily slap around. There's an overgrown raven or a crow that's just there pecking at something, and you've already killed a few in Caelid, so you think, I'm gonna have him. As you start to walk towards him, this massive finger creeper falls,
No.
and it has the thump that, like, if anyone's ever had a big spider in their house and it thumps on the floor and every hair on your body's like, it lands with such a thud, and then it just sort of it really ramps up speed and comes towards you, and all the fingers are twitching and all the little rings on the fingers, and
How horrible.
I do remember.
it's vile. The design of that creature is incredible because it gives a physical reaction every time I see it.
Yeah, I remember as well. There's one moment where you have to like you're just exploring and you're heading towards a tower or something, and you just do a little hop because there's a little bit of a gap. If you fall down, you're going to die. So you do that little hop, and then I can't remember why it was, but I thought, maybe I should go back to a site of grace. So I turned around, and that's when one of those hand creatures was like hiding underneath it. And as I approached it again, it crawled up.
Yeah, because they hide
They
with
hide.
their fingers up like this. You can get to this bit. You get to it's something manor, isn't it? Carrier manor.
Yes.
And they hide underground with their fingers up like traps. So when you walk on them, they close around you. And honestly, I can't describe to you how much my butt is clenching. Like I'm actually going up on the sofa right now.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The thought of it.
Shadow of the Erdtree had these. I don't believe they're in the base game. I don't remember them being there, but they're these scorpions, and they're not just scorpions. They're like hairy, giant scorpions.
Oh.
And when I first saw them, I thought they were like spiders, and I'm someone who doesn't like spiders.
Yeah.
So already seeing like the first one hanging at the top, because it did that thing like in Bloodborne, when you see a silhouette of it, and then it's going to drop as you approach it. Bloodborne's got that horrible giant spider. But in Shadow of the Erdtree, I saw it and I thought it was a spider. There's just a giant scorpion, hairy and like huge, and I was treating it as if it was like those giant spiders again. And there was even a moment when I was exploring, and one of them was like hiding behind a wall, and it just like surprised attacked me, and I was so startled not only from the attack, but then my reflexes just thought, giant spider, even though it's just a giant hairy scorpion. I fully did a little scream just as secret boss came in, and I was like, I'm really sorry, there's a giant scorpion here, I've got to kill it first, I'm not listening to anything you're saying. So it also does have like those creepy eerie creatures in it as well.
I feel like it's on me just talking about it.
Yeah. Oh, I hated it. I hated that. That was always one of my lasting memories.
Do you think you'll ever? I think you should boot up Elden Ring again, and even if you just experience.
I'm very tempted. I'm very tempted because I love the setting. I love fantasy, and I'm a big fan of George R.R. Martin. I know he had a hand in the lore.
Yeah.
And I just know it's the type of world I would love to explore.
Feels quite Game of Thrones as well. I mean, the fact that most of the characters you come across have sort of like regional UK dialects as well. Like Blythe is Welsh, isn't he?
Yes.
And it has that kind of almost like medieval England feel to it in parts that Game of Thrones has. I do think you'd really like it, but you just have to get past that frustration of like every boss
kicking my ass.
Because this is, and again, going back to my earlier point, like this is everyone's experience. There's a lot of bravado online of like, oh yeah, I did that first time. People struggle at these games. They struggle a lot, and that's sometimes the fun, but
it does feel great when you do it first time.
Well, I was going to say, what was the boss that you actually felt the best sense of achievement and pride after you'd done it?
Oh, I mean, I think everyone would say probably Melania.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest
like
answer.
That's probably
isn't
the
it?
biggest answer. Like she's definitely like the toughest boss in the base Elden Ring. And even with an end game character, she picks up a fight. She has like everything. She heals every time she hits you. She does these huge attacks, which even if you keep on dodging backwards, it can still reach you. She's got this really long sword. She's really strong. She jumps and then she does these
two phases,
and then attacks, which can take up like the whole arena and stuff. And vital attacks that when she just gets you, that's it, you're gone. So she had like everything that a hard boss has. Maybe that should be a list, like 7 things that make the ultimate difficult
Any
boss.
boss that heals themselves, that's just not on.
It's against the rules.
I can do that. You
It's a privilege reserved for protagonists only, in my opinion.
It's just not on. I'm
you
sorry.
can't when an enemy heals themselves. No. What about you, Amy? What's the boss that you feel proudest having defeated?
So I think Melania is definitely, is the answer really, because she's undoubtedly the hardest boss in the game, arguably. But I actually also feel very proud of the fire giant.
Yeah.
Because so my friend Ben was over that night, and I'm a big fan of non-co-op games as co-op games. Like, how your mate will watch you play a bit and you go, give me a go. And then before you know it, you're back and forth. And we must have spent about 4 hours each taking it in turns to have an attempt on the fire giant, and we were up all night and it got to 3 a.m. and I remember Ben just being like, I think we should go to bed, and I was like, but we've got him, mate, we've got him on the ropes.
That point,
you know, like he's weak and he knows it.
Got him on the
ropes, and we kept getting closer and it's, you know, obviously, you know, Rob, you know this because you made an amazing Friday feature years and years ago about the 7 stages of like a boss fight, and I still think of that now, and it was those stages of like we got better and then we got worse.
Yeah.
And then
we
have
get
an
better
attempt
up until the point where the boss has like a slither of health left and you lose. And after that one, that's when you get worse. Because you get greedy and you rush and you're impatient and
put like your momentum into that one where you got the health like a smidgen away as well, and then that's it. Your whole energy's just deflated.
And he has two phases, the fire giant. And the second phase we kept dying and we got really close and then we didn't, and we did try different techniques. So we'd sit there strategizing and Ben would be like, how about we get on Torrent? We ride Tozzer into battle. We see what he can do. So we're like, cool, all right, we'll use Torrent. Next time Torrent runs around this guy, stabs him in the ankles, fire giant looks a bit irked. We probably get stomped on. Okay, right, back to the drawing board. What can we try next time? And it became a co-op game. It was really cool. And yeah, I mean, I think Ben's a fan, so he'll probably listen to this at some point. But yeah, we took all night trying to do one boss. And when we finally felled him, we felt so good.
Yeah.
So good. He was hard. Really struggled with the fire giant.
You reached that point as well when when you just said, oh yeah, let's try something different. And I've had it so many times where I've tried like an item, like for example, let's say the cleric beast in Bloodborne who's like weak to fire, and when you figure out that if you just throw those Molotovs at it, then you're like, oh my god, this fire is going down. But if you keep on dying again and again, then eventually you run out of items. And then like your whole strategy of like, we found this item, we found this like weakness, yay, and then you're just, all the items are gone.
It's like when you get poison arrows in a game and then you use them up.
Yeah, you use them all
and it's
up.
not dead and you're like,
Or it's like, you've used it like again and again from all these multiple attempts, thinking like, I'll get it this time, and then you just run out and you still haven't got them after like your 25th attempt. You're just like, oh, I've got to go grind and get some more items.
It sort of reminds me of my most memorable boss encounter, which didn't happen on my playthrough. It happened when Ash summoned us into her playthrough.
Oh, what's this?
When she was fighting the tree sentinel.
Yes.
And the cheese that she came up with was to stand on the hill and just constantly summon people and just fling them down at the tree sentinel, and we'd just be running, get a couple of hits in, die. But the goal was to basically keep the tree sentinel occupied so it wouldn't come and kill Ash, which would basically, that would end the fight. And I think Ash, in one of her many moments of impatience, decided that she would run in and apply the finishing blow. And then it ended up with her running away with a tiny bit of health left, no healing items, from the tree sentinel,
who was chasing
desperately
her,
trying to run back to summon other people to fling in there. But I thought that was so funny.
Because I remember then when she did do that, you and I were like, right, we've just got to go in there and just try and distract it.
You guys were fodder, basically.
We
She threw you in.
It wasn't just us. There were like Access community members getting involved as well.
Yeah.
It's just like, go.
Ash goes to the top of a big hill.
Exactly.
Yeah, literally
Exactly
all
what it was
these
like.
yellow summoning signs just popping up, and Ash was just, as soon as they popped up, she was just sending them into battle. Like,
Well, that's the other great thing about Elden Ring and all From Software games is that co-op element. And you feel like you have to earn the co-op as well, because it's not just like connect, you're online, invite a friend. You have to do these strange in-game rituals
to summon people online.
Was it called the furled finger?
Yes.
And you have to have this strange artifact that has some kind of relevance to the story. And it's kind of frustrating, I guess, when you're trying to, I just want to play with my friends, but also I like the commitment to the lore and the story. And stuff. Okay, you're not just going to summon a friend, you've got to do the thing. Then you may summon your friend. And so many memorable encounters have happened. I remember we were exploring an area where just like a massive rock golem was.
Yeah, well, the one with the arrow, the giant arrow.
With the giant arrow, yeah. And just that, again, no warning that that's coming.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's just like, what the heck is this place? Where are we now? And just that kind of constant unpredictability of it. Like, it's so, and I think that's a quality unique to From Software games for me, is that there's you never know what's around the next corner.
No,
definitely.
absolutely. Yeah.
It's so cool. Talking of bosses, and this might be bosses, this might be something else, but was there any moment that you remember during your playthrough of Elden Ring where you were just like, nope, nope, and just immediately upon seeing it turned tail and ran? Maybe you went back later and beat it, but like a moment where you were just like, no, I am not sticking around here.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with the platinum. You have to do basically every boss, don't you?
Yeah.
So we have defeated everything in the game, but there must have been one. What was yours that made
Really
you turn tail?
Because the thing is as well, like you have probably the first dragon that you come across. Like I think I still gave it a shot, but I definitely backed away from it. I was just like, oh my gosh, because that first dragon, when it's just flies down in the lake, you're at the beginning of the game, you're just exploring, you're not to grips with Elden Ring yet. Like, and now if I see a big empty lake, I'm like, something's gonna spawn over here now.
Yeah, it's
but this is like
giant empty room in an RPG syndrome, isn't it?
It's like, so I know something's
Save
gonna
point just before a merchant.
Yeah.
I wonder if there's going to be a
what's
boss in
happening
There's a
here.
lot of ammo around here. We're all right.
So I do remember like that first dragon when it first swooped down. I like before you even see it, like the actual dragon, you see the health bar come up, and there is that's when you do have those big note
And what
moments.
does the music do, Rosie?
Like just that kind of epic vocal songs. I love it so much.
I would like a Rosie version of the soundtrack.
We went to see Elden Ring in the Royal Philharmonic
We did.
Royal Albert Hall. It was the Philharmonic Orchestra.
For
A word I
some
can't say.
reason, they didn't invite us on stage to sing the songs.
Well, yeah, but you'd have put them to shame, wouldn't you? So they couldn't really.
Now, an a cappella version of the Elden Ring boss tune featuring
Please welcome to the stage Rosie
Caddick.
Caddick.
That's all I do for the whole time. Just the opening menu of because
You know
it's
that?
so good.
Did you ever see the show with Paddy McGuinness, Take Me Out?
Oh, God, yeah. No
Oh,
likey, no lighty.
No likey, no,
No
lighty.
lighty.
And whenever anyone came down the love lift,
Yeah.
they would,
Do you know what it's called?
they would have a piece of music. They'd obviously go, what music would you like for
Imagine
the love
that
lift?
with the
And I
Elden Ring theme.
I can't remember who tweeted it, but I saw a tweet saying if I came down the love lift, my music would be the Bloodborne boss music. I've always remembered that. Like,
Would you?
I love that so much. Imagine that, yeah, with the
That would
Elden
be
Ring
it.
menu theme. Because we can all
not
say
smiling either. You come down,
Just-
death stare. All the lights go out.
You're welcome. Hello, my name's Barry. I'm from Basingstoke. Everyone's like, what the hell was that? Would you have a Final Fantasy piece if you could? Because One Winged Angel would be quite fun,
It
wouldn't
would
it?
either be Toxic by Britney Spears, which I would like played at my funeral. I've already said
You've
that
already
before.
informed us, yeah.
When I am
on it.
I am dead, I want my coffin taken to the front to Britney Spears Toxic. And if there is an afterlife, I'll be there watching and laughing. The confused expressions on everyone's faces.
Oh, it's great.
But yeah, I think maybe just the boss music from Final Fantasy VII or something.
yeah.
As I come down.
I think the
Yeah.
Sephiroth one would be great because it's
Yes.
Estwans it and Paddy McGuinness is like, this guy's going to win the hearts of the nation.
Anyway, stuff we noped out on in Elden Ring.
yeah.
That's where we were.
You said dragons. Is that kind of your...
Well, specifically that first dragon in the lake. Just
Yeah,
because that is
yeah.
when you're like early game, you're still exploring, you're getting
Yeah.
your head around the big world, you're just exploring, having a nice time. Here's a pretty lake, boom, big
Yeah.
dragon swooping in, and it's going to eat you alive and cook you alive. So
Yeah, I nipped
that's-
out of him too, I think.
That's definitely a big one that I do remember like freaking out about. I did the thing as well because it's not even as if with a lot of these bosses you nope out of it and then they vanish. Like you nope out of it, and as soon as you get far enough away that their health bar goes and they calm down, I remember turning around and just watching it just roaming around. I was just staring at it like that's when you can process what it is you're actually fighting and you think, okay, how on earth am I going to do this? And that's why I just was like, right, Torrent, let's go, charge, and then see what happens. So I remember that one.
Yeah.
What about you, Amy?
I think for my two nopes, one nope is its aesthetic. It just looked awful. It looked horrible, and it really just gave me the willies. That was Astel, Natural Born of the Void.
I
Which
loved
is-
that one.
I love these names.
It looks
Natural
like
Born
Natural
of the
Born
Void.
of the Void. It was like imagine if someone, in Jurassic Park, the Mr. DNA, the guy who's like, we got a dinosaur. Imagine if someone stretched that and fused it with a dragonfly. So it's like a long dragonfly with like a long DNA tail. It's made up of
And
like all
skull.
these bits of debris, and its face is like a skull, and it just swoops down on you. Doesn't it have that attack where it like bites your head or something?
Yeah, it like gets you with its pincers or something, and it like just goes like yum 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 yum.
You wouldn't want to find it under your bed. Let's just say that. You would not want to find one under your bed. You wouldn't put it under a glass and take it outside. You'd
You
absolutely
wouldn't put it under a glass.
you'd end it there and then. That one just for looks alone, and then Blackblade Kindred, the one who I think he's the one with the big stick who stands outside where the beast clergyman or the clergyman is. You know, the guy who you give the hearts to.
Yes.
This is meaning nothing to Rob, but very tall.
the guy with the hearts.
Him,
Yeah.
hearts guy, classic hearts guy. He is this massive sentinel is guarding this building, and he's huge. At first, when you see him, you think it's a statue. You don't even think it's a real living thing. It's massive, and it's standing outside. And me, with my in for a penny, in for a pound attitude, thought, I wonder if that's actually a thing I could fight. Very low level at this point in the game, so I went up to it. And I come up to like probably his ankle on torrent as well. You know, I'm tiny. So I do the thing where you press in the stick to target. And if it targets, you're like, hey, here we go. We can fight it. So I pressed like to target it. And then I just smacked his ankle and health bar comes up, massive health bar.
Yeah.
And this thing just looks at me and goes like,
I do love those ones where you have to interact with it to trigger the health bar, and then you're fully right.
It
They just look at you
crushed
just
me.
like, that's annoying.
yeah, it was like, oh, what's that? Oh, a bug. And I was like, yep, cool, I'll come back for you. And I did. He was one of the last bosses I killed, I think. Yeah, he was hard.
Wow. I remember noping out of, it wasn't a boss. I was just in a forest. I was just exploring some cool ruins. I was like, let's just fun over here. There's nothing nasty. And I just heard like a noise. Like a kind of deep guttural growling noise. And I turned the corner in these ruins. There's just an enormous black bear creature just there. And because I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking just an absolute just shock went through me. And I just ran.
Yeah.
I just ran.
Yeah.
I have no idea if this thing was chasing me. I just had to get out of there immediately. And that, I think that sums up my Elden Ring experience quite a lot. I'm just so scared all the time playing this game. I spent 4 hours like punching plants one time, and I leveled up like once or twice, I think. It's like, I'm a little bit stronger now.
I did it.
But again, just not really strong enough to ever feel like I was making significant inroads into the game. Like, every boss I would get on torrent and just like ride around and try and just nibble away at their health bar.
Yeah.
But all it would ever take would be one unfortunate flail of a massive scaly hand, and that would be the end of me.
Yeah.
Well, at least none of us has noped out as much as Patches did when you summon him in the Radahn fight.
Oh yeah, he nopes. So there's a big fight, and it's
it's
really
a brilliant
epic.
fight.
Probably one of the most memorable fights in the whole game. It's very rare for a From Software fight because normally it's always one-on-one, and this time round it's kind of like it has a Two Towers feel to it. Like everyone's together, so all of the NPCs you've met so far,
you can summon them in.
You can summon them all in, and you summon them all by running up to their little touchstones, and they all appear one by one. So all your allies are coming in. It's very Avengers Endgame, and everyone's getting summoned. Blythe,
that sounds cool.
Well, you're on this huge battlefield as well, and Radahn is this huge character at like the end. So you're summoning them, and then you're all running in together. Like you have to run across.
In with your army of friends. It's so good.
Sounds great.
But there's one guy called Patches who's like he's in the whole of the sort of Soulsborne.
Patches.
You know Patches.
You know Patches.
He is, everyone's favourite little. There's lots of words I can't say on this
like
podcast
for him. He's like a spider in Bloodborne, isn't he? Patches?
Yes, he's a spider. But in every game, he sort of he messes you. He sort of screws you over, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He tends to be the guy who like betrays you or like kicks you down a hole in Dark Souls.
And then he goes, "Oh, buddy, I can sell you things. We're friends." It was all a prank.
Acts all matey afterwards. But you can summon him to fight in your little army, and it comes up like Blythe has entered the fray, you know.
Alexander has
Alexander
entered.
Ironfist has entered the fray, and then it comes up, Patches has been summoned, and then literally 2 seconds later, Patches has left this world.
He just nopes
He's
out
like,
of it immediately. Nope. Which
Not
was so
fighting this.
funny. Yeah, it's so funny and so
So,
clever
yeah.
that they did that. I'll always remember that bit. It was great.
Yeah, it's good.
Oh, well, it sounds like I really need to get stuck into the game again,
Yeah.
because I don't want to miss out on Shadow of the Erdtree. Like I have major FOMO. Like I have like, you know, on one hand I'm so scared of these games, but on the other hand I'm like, everyone else is having such a great time.
Yeah.
I don't want to miss out on it. Amy, I'm guessing you're massively excited to adventure
Yeah, I
into
can't
Shadow
wait.
of the Erdtree.
I haven't seen masses of what Rosie's been playing so far. I've only seen bits and pieces. So I've tried to avoid sort of watching you too much
Yeah.
at lunchtimes and stuff, or watching you kind of when you've been capturing, because I want to keep it fairly fresh. But I'm so excited. And as soon
Yeah.
as I dive in, I'll be messaging you going, oh my God, did you see this? Did you see that? But yeah, it's awesome. I can't wait.
Please do. I want to hear all of your adventures as well.
Yeah.
So tell me everything you've experienced.
Yeah, I will do. I will do.
Well, Rosie and Amy, thank you very much for your platinum trophy earning insight and expertise on this episode of the PlayStation Access podcast. If you've been playing Shadow of the Erdtree, let us know in the comments on YouTube or just on social media. Reach out and check out Rosie's video on the YouTube channel if you haven't done so
It's
already.
fantastic.
Aw, thanks. It was just me rambling.
Otherwise, join us again in 2 weeks' time for another episode of the PlayStation Access podcast. Until then, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
PlayStation